Prince Andrew would fly off the handle if we've not opened the gate for him in time, or if we've stopped one of his guests because we've not got the right ID or we haven't been given any information of who they are. It would be verbally abusive. Shout, swear, just really rude individual.
A grown man in his 40s screaming at housekeepers, not because they broke something valuable, not because they were late, because they put a stuffed animal in the wrong spot. That's the opening image you need to hold in your head for the rest of this video, because everything that came after, the Newsnight lies, the settlement, the arrest, it all traces back to the same thing. A man who believed the world existed to serve him, and a household that was trained to never, ever push back.
And this, I think, is what is totally frustrating members of the royal family. He has always had a sense of entitlement. He's always been convinced by his royalness.
A young lady turned up, probably about 22, 23 years old, said she was here to see Prince Andrew. He just came in about half hour previous, so we knew he was in, but the footman wasn't answering his phone. There was no way of us contacting anyone up there, so we just politely said to the lady, "We're really sorry, we can't let you in at the moment because we can't confirm you're expected." So she said, "Oh, shall I ring him on my mobile?" So we said, "Yeah, fine." So she rang Prince Andrew on her mobile, and we could hear him clearly. He said, put an officer on the phone. So my colleague took the phone and he said, "Listen to me, you fat lardy ass. Let my guest in immediately, I'm going to come down there." Everyone heard it. The lady went red, apologised, and we just let her in. So after that, obviously, those sort of issues we had with him, we would just let women in, didn't ask questions because we just did not want the grief.
Paul Page was an armed protection officer in the Royalty Protection Command from 1998 to 2004, 6 years inside Buckingham Palace. He guarded the Queen, he guarded Prince Philip, and he guarded Andrew.
Ghislaine Maxwell, she was a very frequent guest of Prince Andrew. She was a regular visitor.
Of every royal he worked with, he says Andrew was the worst. Not difficult, not demanding, the worst, verbally abusive, explosive over nothing, and surrounded by a system that made sure nothing he did ever had consequences.
I mean, complaints were made about him. He was a rude, obnoxious, horrible individual, but no one was going to take a complaint to the royal household because he's the Queen's favourite.
And before anyone says, well, he's just a disgruntled ex-employee, hold on, because the detail that makes Paul Page impossible to ignore isn't his opinion, it's his specificity.
On this particular occasion, we went into Prince Andrew's bedroom and his apartments, and on his bed was 72 teddy bears on his bed.
He described a bedroom containing roughly 50 to 60 soft toys arranged on Andrew's bed according to a laminated diagram, a printed, laminated chart showing exactly where each bear sat.
My inspector showed me a laminated card, which is in the side drawer of one of the bedroom cabinets, of a picture of these teddy bears, all in situ.
If the maids moved one during cleaning and didn't put it back precisely, Andrew would reportedly scream, not complain, scream.
And he said the reason for that picture is that the maids have to put them back exactly like it's in that picture. He said if they don't, he shouts and screams.
Now, nobody makes up a laminated teddy bear diagram. That's not a story someone invents to settle a grudge. That's the kind of detail that only exists if you saw it.
She says she met you in 2001. She dined with you. She danced with you. You bought her drinks. You were in Tramp nightclub in London. And she went on to have sex with you in a house in Belgravia belonging to Ghislaine Maxwell.
Didn't happen. I have no recollection of ever meeting this lady, none whatsoever.
You don't remember meeting her?
No.
In November 2019, Andrew sat across from Emily Maitlis on BBC Newsnight and said one of the most infamous lines in broadcast history. He claimed he couldn't sweat, a medical condition, he said, linked to an adrenaline overdose from the Falklands War. It was his defense against allegations that he danced at a nightclub with a young woman who later accused him of far worse.
She was very specific about that night. She described dancing with you and you profusely sweating.
There's a slight problem with the sweating because I have a peculiar medical condition, which is that I don't sweat, or I didn't sweat at the time, because I had suffered what I would describe as an overdose of adrenaline in the Falklands War when I was shot at. It was almost impossible for me to sweat.
If he couldn't sweat, he couldn't have been the man described in that account. Paul Page watched that interview, and his reaction was immediate. He said he personally saw Andrew sweat during his years at the palace, that other staff were astonished by the claim, that it was, in his words, absurd.
Why would you remember that moment of sweat?
Because he had a police officer picking up golf balls. I just couldn't believe that a police officer was acting as a ball boy. So obviously that stuck in my mind. It was a hot day, it was a hot summer's day. I was sweating, and he was whacking golf balls. And if you're wiping your brow, what are you wiping off your face? As far as I'm concerned, he was sweating, and that's what I saw.
This is the part that should bother you most, not the sweating itself. That's almost a punchline at this point. What should bother you is the maths. Andrew said that on national television in 2019. Paige had been talking about Andrew's behavior since before that.
At the moment, again, it's his word, and that's all he's got. But there are no witnesses to confirm that, so that is just what he is saying.
Staff inside the palace knew that defense was ridiculous. And nobody, not the BBC, not the palace press office, not a single institution, put Paige in front of a camera to say what every colleague already knew. It took years. It took ITV. It took 60 Minutes Australia flying a crew to London. It took independent channels willing to platform a man the establishment had written off, because Paige doesn't come without baggage.
I got myself into a lot of trouble when I was a Royal Protection Officer. I basically was dealing in shares. I became a millionaire while I was a Royal Protection Officer in my own right before I got in trouble. And I basically started investing police officers' money as well. And it came to a point where I was just hemorrhaging money. It started off well, we were making money, and I was dealing with millions of pounds, and the stress got to me, and I started losing money. So I turned to fraud. I went to court, I was held to account for my actions, and I spent 6 years in prison.
In 2009, he was convicted of a £3 million property fraud. He served time, and the palace and tabloids have used that conviction to discredit everything he says. But here's the thing, the palace has never done. They've never directly denied the teddy bears. They've never denied the screaming. They've never rebutted the sweating claim on the record. They attack the messenger. They leave the message untouched.
Back in 2009, wasn't really relevant to today's situation with Prince Andrew. Over the years, what I said has now become relevant. And so the press started using bits and pieces from what I'd said. So I thought, at the end of the day, it's what I said. I've got to stand by what I said because it's 100% true. So I'm on no revenge mission. I just feel that Prince Andrew has got a case to answer on all levels, including bullying. And I suffered at the hands of Prince Andrew. Young girls suffered at the hands of Prince Andrew, his maids, other police officers and members of staff. But none of this has ever been looked into because people were too frightened. And also it's important for the public around the world to understand, just because you've got a title, and as I said previously, it does not mean that you are a good person.
I do think there's a huge scandal here. It's only going to get bigger. It's not just about financial and sexual misdemeanors. It's, I think, a national security scandal, and we're getting hints of that already.
Paul Page is a former protection officer with a criminal record. Easy to dismiss. But what happens when you can't dismiss the source? What happens when the person saying the same things is a Cambridge-educated historian with best-selling books and a legal team?
Well, it took me 4 years of research, and I approached about 3,000 people, about 300 talked to me. And it took a lot of time to get a lot of these people to go on the record, but I think a lot of them were pretty appalled by the way that Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson had operated, had got away with it, had been protected by the palace. And I suppose I then got these senior diplomats and naval officers to talk, which was great.
Dr. Andrew Loney wrote, entitled, The Rise and Fall of the House of York. It covers Andrew, Fergie, their finances, their scandals, and their connections.
I've just been able to reveal today that she was actually in touch with Epstein for years afterwards, staying in his flats.
Including the relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. The book was a bestseller in the UK. Critics described it as rigorous research built on hundreds of interviews and freedom of information requests. And when it came time to publish the American edition, something happened.
You faced an unprecedented wall of resistance on the part of the Yorks in your pursuit of the truth, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I mean, I approached them originally to see if they would cooperate, not because it was not going to be authorised, but because I felt it was important that they should be allowed to help shape the narrative.
So you approached Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson?
Yes.
Loney sold US rights to Simon & Schuster's Gallery Books imprint for a reported $250,000 advance. Early editorial notes from the publisher said the material was all there, just needed shaping. Then, a few weeks later, the publisher abruptly terminated the contract, called the manuscript unacceptable, didn't give him the full 90-day revision period his contract guaranteed. Loney is now suing for several $100,000 in damages, and says the decision destroyed his chance to break into the American market.
And my publishers got letters, legal letters, warning them that they were being watched, what they put in the book. I was told that my social media would be monitored, and that their attempts were made basically to intimidate me.
Think about the sequence. A book sells well in the UK. The biggest publisher in the US buys it. Their editors say the content is solid. And then, weeks before publication, someone pulls the plug. Loney himself says archives repeatedly blocked his access to documents on Andrew and Fergie. monarchy, citing security concerns or claiming material was unavailable.
So I had a meeting with Sarah Ferguson. She decided not to cooperate. She decided, in fact, to tell all her friends not to talk to me.
He says the York family instructed friends not to speak with him. He says ABC News in America was allegedly warned it would lose royal access if it ran a critical story about Andrew, and the story was dropped. Now, is there a signed letter from the palace saying, kill this book? No. But when the archives block you, the family blocks you, the broadcaster backs down, and the publisher walks away weeks before printing, at some point you stop asking, is there a pattern? And start asking, who benefits from the pattern?
I think the worry is that there are more damaging revelations to come, which there are. I have a lot of material which I'm putting into an updated paperback in the summer. I know that there are much more to come out from the Epstein revelations. We're beginning to see them today. And I think we will now get more victims coming forward, and I think more people coming forward with stories. And I think this thing will begin to unfurl. It's going to be really bad.
He just hoped he could silence everything. But of course you can't, because he is guilty on so many levels. And that is the great problem for the royal family. He is a permanent time bomb.
Tom Bower is not a man who gets silenced easily. He's made a career out of writing books that powerful people hate. The Beckhams, Meghan, Charles. If you've embarrassed yourself publicly, there's a decent chance Bower has a manuscript about it. On Andrew, Bower has been blunt. He's called him a professional con man.
But when he decided to do the interview with Newsnight, he clearly rehearsed how he was going to explain the photograph in the park and everything, and went into that interview with clear determination to lie, not only clearly about his relationship with Epstein, but also his relationship with Virginia Giuffre and the rest of the things. And what is remarkable is looking at his face as he lies. It is the face of a professional con man, a professional liar.
He described the Newsnight interview as a masterclass in deceit, and he's warned publicly that the Epstein files and new memoirs, including Virginia Giuffre's, could cause what he calls a major constitutional crisis for the monarchy.
This is the Duke of York. This is the royal family, willingly going onto TV and lying to the world about his relationship. And there was no compulsion for him to do it. We are really approaching, in my view, that along with Prince Harry and all the rest of it, a major constitutional crisis.
But the detail that went viral wasn't any of that. It was a single line. In interviews and panel discussions, Bower said, and this is a direct quote, "This is the chapter the palace hoped I would never write." That line exploded across YouTube. Commentary channels ran with it, speculating about hidden material involving Andrew, Meghan, or both. Some claimed there was a fully written chapter that publishers were too scared to print. Whether that chapter was formally deleted, watered down, or is still sitting in Bower's notes, nobody outside his office knows for certain. But the message landed. There are parts of Andrew's story that people in positions of power have worked very hard to keep buried. Bower is saying, I found some of them. And that's what connects Page, Loney, and Bower. Three completely different people. A protection officer, a historian, and an investigative biographer. None of them work together. None of them share a publisher or an agenda. But all three tell the same story, that whenever someone got close to the full truth about Andrew, something pushed back, a career was damaged, a book was pulled, an archive was locked, a broadcaster was warned. You can dismiss one person. Dismissing three gets harder. Dismissing a pattern, that takes effort.
What's your take on everything with the Prince Andrew interview?
Well, do you know what? I didn't know him that well. Andrew wasn't in my satellite, and I've never really known him, and that's the honest truth. I feel sorry for the victims of this paedophile.
Paul Burrell spent years as Princess Diana's butler. He lived inside the palace system. He saw how decisions were made, how scandals were managed, and how the institution prioritized its own survival above everything, including the people inside it. Burrell has spoken publicly about the royal family's instinct to close ranks. He's described a culture where protecting the institution always comes before protecting individuals. He's spoken about Diana's own fears and mistrust of senior figures within the household. Now, Burrell wasn't Andrew's butler. He wasn't a direct witness to what happened inside Royal Lodge. But what makes his perspective relevant here isn't specific evidence about Andrew. It's what he says about the system.
I spent 5 years trying to get access to this sort of information, and I think committees in the House of Commons should be looking at a proper investigation into Andrew's time as a trade envoy, because he was helped and abetted by a whole series of people. I would like a lot of people who wouldn't talk to me for my book.
The same system that Paul Page says protected Andrew from staff complaints. The same system that Andrew Loney says blocked his research. The same system that allegedly warned ABC News to back off. Diana told Burrell things about the family, about the pressures, about the way the machine operated. And years before anyone was talking about Andrew's legal problems, Burrell was already warning the public that the royal family had a habit of sweeping things under the carpet until the carpet couldn't hold them anymore. He didn't predict Andrew's arrest specifically. He didn't need to. He predicted the system that made the arrest inevitable.
And I love Queen Elizabeth. I suspect that she was trying to protect who we know to be her favorite son.
I think that's why nothing really severe did happen to him when the Queen was still alive.
Queen Elizabeth II stood by Andrew publicly until near the end of her life, after the Newsnight disaster, after the allegations, after the civil settlement. She stripped him of duties, yes, but he still lived at Royal Lodge. He still had access to the family. He was still, by every credible account, her favorite. For decades, biographers and journalists have said the monarchy shielded Andrew. Access was restricted. Archives blocked document requests. Broadcasters were discouraged from running critical coverage. The Queen didn't create this system, but she allowed it to function around her son for longer than almost anyone else would have. And then she died, and the protection died with her.
We've known about this since 2011. Yes, he may have denied it to the Queen, but they certainly knew in the palace, and they monitor everything that goes on. And so for 14, 15 years, there has been a conspiracy of silence, and there's been a conspiracy by many at various levels not to tell the truth, I allege.
King Charles said the law must take its course. William reportedly pushed harder behind the scenes to marginalize Andrew permanently. The arrest came, the search warrants were executed, devices seized from 2 properties, and for the first time, the full combined weight of arrests, lawsuits, and publishers willing to stand up to royal pressure happened without a queen to intervene.
Now I think brother to brother, the king has had to say, no more, Andrew, you are not doing this to our family.
Now, did Elizabeth II have some single devastating secret about Andrew locked in a vault? Probably not. That's not how this works. What she had was knowledge, decades of it. She knew who her son was behind closed doors, the temper, the entitlement, the relationships that raised questions, and she chose repeatedly to protect rather than expose. That's not a secret she took to her grave. It's a decision she made every single day she was alive. The staff knew, the authors knew, the butlers knew. The difference is, now we know too. February 2026. Andrew is arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office. Police seize hard drives, laptops, phones, and documents from Royal Lodge and Wood Farm. The National Crime Agency is involved. Legal experts are calling it the biggest crisis for the monarchy since the 1936 abdication. And somewhere in a stack of interview tapes and published books, Paul Page, Andrew Loney, Tom Bower, and Paul Burrell are sitting with the same thought. They told us years ago. Each of them, in their own way, tried to put pieces of Andrew's story on the public record. Page was branded a liar. Loney's book was pulled. Bower was dismissed as sensational. Burrell was written off as a gossip. None of them are laughing now, but none of them are surprised either. Because the story they told about a man who believed rules didn't apply to him, protected by an institution that agreed, that story just became a police case. What comes out of those seized devices? We don't know yet. What we do know is this. For 20 years, the people closest to Andrew's world tried to speak. And for 20 years, the system that protected him made sure nobody listened. They called them liars. Turns out they were just early. If this is the kind of content that keeps you informed, consider subscribing, because this story isn't over, not even close.